All right, it's time to talk about some of this week's games. Now, I know everybody hates realignment and expansion and all this kind of change that's happened in college football over the last few years, but it has created just amazing games every single weekend in the college football season. And next year with the SEC and the ACC going to 9 conference games, that's going to give us more great games every single week. But it seems like every week I look at the slate of games and I go, wow, this is the greatest weekend of college football ever. And then that week plays out and I look forward to the next week and I'm like, oh, never mind. This is actually the greatest weekend of college. We have great games. This might be the best Saturday of the season. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. I forget which Saturday, which week it was. I was like, that might have been the greatest weekend of football in my lifetime. This one might beat it. And then next week might be that. It's just unbelievable games. But what I want to do today, I want to separate out. I'm going to end up having to do probably 2 or 3 prediction videos this week because there's just so many great games. So I'm going to kind of separate them out into different categories here. So one of the things we all know about college football is how difficult it can be to go on the road and win, right? Well, we've got several highly ranked teams this week that are favorites, but they're going on the road. And the way this college football season has been going and just what we know about college football and how difficult it can be to play on the road, some of these teams are probably going to lose. But I want to go through a few of them here. I want to start with South Florida on the road at North Texas. This is a group of 5 game. I don't talk a lot about the group of 5. But these are 2 teams that both have opportunities to make the playoffs this year. You guys know how it works. At the end of the season, after conference championship Saturday, the highest ranked group of 5 team gets an automatic bid to the playoffs. South Florida is 4-1. Their only loss is on the road against Miami, who might be or is one of the best teams in the country. North Texas is 5-0, and they've been destroying people. This is going to be a really, really good game here in the American. Both teams are 1-0 in conference, so it's very possible we see this game again in a conference championship scenario. Hard to know for sure right now, but these are 2 really, really good teams. This game is going to be Friday night, October 10th at 7:30 on ESPN2. And the road team, South Florida, is a 1.5-point favorite at North Texas. I like North Texas here. I think North Texas is a little bit of they're a less known commodity, I think, than South Florida. Obviously, people are aware of South Florida. They beat Boise State to start the season, right? Last year's group of 5 participant in the playoff. Not only did they beat them, they blew them out 34-7. They then won the next week against Florida. Make of that what you will, given what we just saw from Florida this past weekend. But they won on the road at Florida 18-16. Florida just beat Texas at home, so that's a pretty good win. They did get blown out on the road by Miami 49-12, but they rebounded with a 63-14 win over South Carolina State. Not a great team. The following week, they beat Charlotte 54-26. So South Florida is a really good team and a serious contender to make the college football playoff, but this is a huge game for them on the road at North Texas. So I think people are more familiar with South Florida. They've been more in the headlines because of the schedule they've played than North Texas has. North Texas beat Lamar 51-0. Then they beat Western Michigan 33-30. That's their closest game of the season. That was a road game. They beat Washington State, which is, are we still pretending Washington State and Oregon State are Power 4 teams? I don't know. But they beat Washington State 59-10. They beat Army on the road at Army 45-38. And then this past week, they beat South Alabama 36-22. North Texas is a good team. This is going to be a tough out for South Florida here. And I'm actually going to go with North Texas at home on a Friday night to get the win. Y'all know how I feel about these weekday games. You see a lot of weird things on weekdays. You see a lot of ranked teams playing at home, or you see a lot of ranked teams playing at home. Weird things happen. Ranked teams going on the road. South Florida's the road team here. South Florida's ranked at 24 this week in the AP poll. So again, you may disagree with that. You might think they should be higher. I don't know. But if you just go back and look throughout college football, ranked teams to have to go on the road during the week to play an unranked team, weird things happen. Remember the Virginia at Florida State game from a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to take North Texas at home here. They're getting 1.5 points. I'm just going to go ahead and pick them to win outright. Give me the Mean Green to pull what would be a little bit of an upset here. They're a 1.5 point underdog over South Florida. What about Georgia on the road at Auburn? Now, Auburn is not a great team. They've got some issues. They struggle to do pretty much anything offensively. Jackson Arnold does have the ability to scramble, run around, and extend plays, which has given Kirby Smart defenses trouble over his career going back to his time at Alabama. But beyond that, it's really hard to find anything offensively that scares you about Auburn on offense. Cam Coleman is one of the best wide receivers on the planet. There's no doubt about it. But they just don't have a quarterback that can take advantage of that. In fact, they haven't had that going back to last year, now this year with Jackson Arnold. Closing your eyes in the pocket if you're Jackson Arnold and kind of throwing up a prayer to Cam Coleman 3 or 4 times a game is really the extent of their downfield passing game. They've really struggled offensively. Now, defensively, they've managed to stay in a couple of games in some difficult environments. You've got the game they played on the road at Norman a few weeks ago, and there was some questionable officiating in that game. There's no doubt about it, but they ended up losing the game, and in the end, that's all that matters, 24-17. The following week, they had to turn around and play at Texas A&M. They only lost 16-10. So their defense has been doing a pretty good job at limiting the opponent's ability to score, and that was on the road. I haven't even talked about Jordan-Hare and just the weird shit that tends to happen there, whether you're talking about the kick 6 from forever ago, the prayer at Jordan-Hare that beat Georgia there at night about a decade ago. Just a lot of weird, almost voodoo type stuff seems to happen at Jordan-Hare when you least expect it. This is going to be a tough game for Georgia to go on the road here. They played Kentucky this past week. It's kind of a blowout type of deal there. Don't really know what, if anything, you can make of that. Their only loss so far at home to Alabama, a 3-point loss. They've got a win against Tennessee on the road. Now, I do think that trip to Knoxville that Georgia made a few weeks ago will benefit them here. That's a tough place to play, too. It's loud, it's hostile, and it's going to be more of the same this week for Georgia on the road at Auburn. This is a game Georgia absolutely has to win. Gunnar Stockton's going to have a good game. I think Georgia is sort of finally starting to figure out the running back rotation a little bit. It's pretty clear to everybody I've talked to anyway with a set of eyes that Chauncey Bowens is the best running back on the team. I think we're going to continue to see more of him, less of Nate Frazier. Georgia's got several weapons at wide receiver. None of them have really sort of stepped to the front as sort of a superstar or breakout player. It's been a pretty even distribution in terms of pass attempts for Gunnar Stockton, but they've got some big bodies on the outside with Colby Young, Noah Thomas, who's yet to really have a big game. Zachariah Branch in the slot is one of the most dynamic players in all of college football. Dylan Bell had a massive game last week. Georgia's offensive line is banged up. They're going to have to play well because, again, this Auburn defense has proven that they can keep them in games even when the offense struggles. They only gave up 24 to Oklahoma, only gave up 16 to Texas A&M. Texas A&M put up a million points last week against Mississippi State. So Auburn does have a good defense. It's not going to be easy for Georgia. But Georgia's got to find a way to win this game. They already have the one loss to Alabama. I think Georgia could be in trouble if they take a second loss here this early in October, especially when you look at what Georgia's got coming up down the road. Now, maybe you think the Texas game looks a little easier now than you thought it would be in the preseason, given they just went to Gainesville and laid an egg, and Texas has to come to Athens late in the year. But if you think that, maybe you also think that the Florida game might be more difficult. But anyway, they've got the one conference loss. They play at Auburn this week. They host Ole Miss next week, which is clearly one of the best teams in the SEC, beat Georgia last year in Oxford. Then they're on a bye week. Then the cocktail party against Florida. Then they play a road game at Mississippi State, which they should win. And then they host Texas and Charlotte before playing Georgia Tech in a neutral site game in Atlanta to close out the season. So if Georgia were to drop this game, that would be their second loss here in the first half of October, and a lot of losable games still left on the calendar there for Georgia. So I think it's extremely important that Georgia finds a way to go into Auburn and get a win here, and I think they do. They're favored by about 3.5, depending on where you look. It's bounced around from 2.5 to 3 to 3.5. I don't know that I'll bet this game, especially over 3.5. I think this is going to be a close game into the fourth quarter. Now, we've seen some Georgia-Auburn games remain close into the second half and Georgia pull away in the second half. The sort of famous Brock Bowers game from a couple of years ago comes to mind. I do think this is going to be a street fight type game. I don't expect either team to run away with this thing. Georgia's currently favored by 3.5. Like I mentioned, I'm going to take Georgia to win the game. I might take Auburn in the 3.5 points, though. Now, I don't ever actually bet against Georgia. Just a disclaimer. I'm a Georgia fan, so I don't ever put money against Georgia because I don't want to find myself in a situation at the end of a game where I'm either having to root for Georgia to score or the other team to score based on some bet I have on the game. So I don't ever bet against Georgia. I won't bet Georgia minus 3.5, though, but I do think they find a way to get it done on the road at Auburn. That Tennessee game early in the year, huge for this team's confidence in their ability to travel. Ohio State, another highly ranked team, number 1 in the AP poll, number 2 in the Uncle Lou poll, which is the only poll that matters. Ohio State travels to Illinois. Now, Illinois got absolutely destroyed by the best team they've played this year, Indiana. It was an absolute massacre, 63-10, one of the worst ranked-on-ranked beatdowns in the history of the Big Ten. They won by 53 points, and people wrote in Illinois off. I caught some flack for leaving Illinois ranked after that loss to Indiana. Now, I did drop them all the way down to 24 or 25, whatever it was. But Illinois has rebounded nicely. They've picked up a couple of wins since then. They're sitting there at 5-1. Ohio State's got to travel there. Illinois is a tough physical team. They don't have the explosive weapons offensively that Ohio State has, that's for sure. It seems to me the game plan for Illinois is going to have to keep this thing as low scoring as possible. I don't think Illinois can pull off the upset here. I just think Ohio State is too talented, too good, too well coached to lose this game, although it is on the road. But they're favored by 14.5, Ohio State is. I'm tempted to take Illinois plus 14.5, thinking they can find a way to keep this thing within 2 touchdowns, but I just can't get that Indiana game out of my mind. So I haven't bet that game yet. Don't know that I will. But 14.5 is an interesting number. All right, I got a couple of other games I want to talk about, but before we do that, shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Sleeper. Make sure you download the Sleeper app if you hadn't already. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. You don't have to pick the winners or the losers of the games. You're just picking more or less on player stat lines, and then you can stack your picks. You can do 2, 3, 4, 5 picks into a single play, and it multiplies your winnings. You can actually win up to 1,000 times your money, and they've got 2 great promotions going on right now. They've got the one down here that you see that they've had all season long. Download the app, sign up for an account, use the promo code Lou, L-O-U, and when you make your first deposit on there, they're going to match it dollar for dollar up to $100. So you deposit 50, they give you another 50. You deposit 100, they give you another 100. Have yourself some fun watching these college football games every weekend and potentially win yourself some money. But they also have a new promotion they just rolled out, and this one might be even better. You don't even have to make a deposit. You literally just download the app, create an account, use the promo code Lou, L-O-U, and I'm going to give you $20 into your Sleeper account, a free $20 play. And you can go in there and you can do a 3-pick play or you can do a 10-pick play. It's up to you. But $20 courtesy of Uncle Lou. All you have to do is download the app, create a new account, and use the promo code L-O-U. Download the Sleeper app. You'll be glad you did. Shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring today's video. Now, what about Alabama on the road at Missouri? Now, Alabama's coming off 2 pretty emotional games. On the road in Athens, sort of a must-win spot for Bama after dropping that game in week 1 to Florida State, and they got the job done. They continue to own and dominate Georgia in every way imaginable. And then they had to turn around the following week, go back home and host Vandy, who was 4-0, 5-0, whatever it was they were. And it was a revenge game, as weird as that sounds for Bama, because, of course, that was Vandy's big win last year when they knocked off Alabama at home, and sort of everybody started to realize who Diego Poverty was at that point. He had a massive game last year at home. Didn't work out for Vandy and Diego Poverty this past weekend on the road in Tuscaloosa. Alabama gets another win, but that was another close game into the fourth quarter. 20-14, Vandy had the ball down in the red zone, and Pavia throws that interception, and that was kind of their last chance to maybe take the lead. Alabama kicked a field goal and then scored a late touchdown and won 30-14, but it was competitive in the fourth quarter. Now they got to go on the road and play Missouri, so this is their 3rd sort of marquee game in a row, and this one's on the road, and Missouri thinks they could win this game. And I don't know. Maybe they can. They've got a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. Their quarterback, Bo Pribula, is lighting it up. They've got what I think is the best running back in the SEC in Ahmad Hardy, a transfer from, I believe it was Louisiana Monroe. And they've looked really, really good. They haven't played the level of competition that Alabama has, and that's obvious. I'll admit that. Their best wins are probably Kansas and South Carolina, whereas Alabama's got wins against Georgia, on the road and at home against Vandy this past weekend. These two teams played last year in a similar spot. Missouri was winning a lot of games and ranked, but hadn't played a very difficult schedule. Alabama at the time, I believe, had the one loss to Tennessee, maybe it was. Then, but anyway, doesn't matter. Missouri went down to Alabama last year and got absolutely destroyed. I mean, it was 28-0, 35-0, something like that. It's just an absolute beatdown last year. Missouri took it to the hands of Alabama. I think this game will be different. I think this is going to be a tough test here for Alabama. Again, 3 straight games in a row against quality opponents, 2 of them on the road. They've won the first 2, 1 on the road, 1 at home. Got to find a way to do it again 3 weeks in a row here on the road at Missouri. Ty Simpson, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I don't know that anybody saw that coming in the offseason. We definitely didn't see it coming after his performance against Florida State in week 1. But since then, he has played lights out, and he has played like one of the best quarterbacks in the country. That running back, Jam Miller, that was out injured the first couple of weeks of the season, had a breakout game this past weekend, went over 100 yards, I think, in that one. They've got 2 dynamic receivers in Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard, and the defense is playing good enough. Now, they struggle against the run, and if Missouri can get Ahmad Hardy going in this game, Alabama could be in trouble. Alabama's a 2.5-point favorite on the road. I'm going to take Alabama to win. I look, like I told you, Georgia's my favorite team. I need Alabama to lose games, right? If I want Georgia to move ahead of them in the SEC standings. So I'd love to be able to come on here and maybe take Mizzou. I just think Alabama's playing too good right now. I think that loss in the beginning of the season did something to them, lit a fire, lit a spark, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I think this is going to be a close game, and I would not be surprised if Missouri pulls it off. But it's hard for me to pick against Alabama right now, as good as they've been playing against quality competition the last couple of weeks. So I think Alabama goes on the road and wins a close one. And since it's only 2.5 points, I'll take Alabama and lay the 2.5. Let me scroll through here and see if there's a couple of more I wanted to hit. We're focusing on road favorites today. So Alabama at Vandy is a road favorite. Georgia at Auburn is a road favorite. South Florida at North Texas as a road favorite. There's a lot of obviously home favorites. Iowa State at Colorado, road favorite here. Iowa State only favored by 2.5 though on the road at Colorado. Iowa State took their first loss last week against Cincinnati. So they're trying to rebound here on the road against a reeling Colorado team who currently sits at 2-4. Iowa State's favored by 2.5. I like Iowa State to win there. Colorado's in a bad way. They're hanging in there in some of these games and then kind of collapsing in the second half. Dion, it appears, might be having some more health issues there, which obviously nobody wants that. But I just feel like Colorado might be spiraling right now. I like Iowa State to go on the road and get the win there. Let's see. Looking for some more road favorites here. There's not a lot of them. I thought maybe Michigan would be favored on the road at Southern Cal, but Southern Cal is actually favored by 2.5 there. LSU is a big favorite at home over South Carolina. Here you go. Here's an interesting one. BYU on the road at Arizona. Surprisingly and quietly, Arizona's sitting here at 4-1, 1-1 in the Big 12. BYU, of course, undefeated 5-0, and Arizona set to host BYU in what could be a really big game in the Big 12 here. This is an 8:00 game on Saturday. I don't know what to make of this Arizona team. They haven't been very good the last couple of years, and it's very possible that by the time we get to the end of the Big 12 schedule in November, we're saying the same thing, and Arizona's sitting there with 4 or 5, maybe even 6 losses. I'm going to take BYU in this one to go on the road and get the win. But look, picking the Big 12 games week to week is a complete crapshoot. If you're one of these people that likes close games and complains about blowouts all the time or whatever, the Big 12 is for you. You can literally flip a coin in a lot of these Big 12 games. It's great football to watch on TV. Especially. But anyway, there you go. Some road favorites. So who's most likely to lose out of that list? BYU at Arizona, Georgia at Auburn, Bama at Missouri, South Florida at North Texas, Ohio State on the road at Illinois. I find that hard to believe. Ohio State looks like a well-oiled machine right now. One on the road at Washington, so we've seen them do it on the road. Hard for me to imagine they're going to go to Champaign, Illinois and drop a deuce, but maybe they will. But anyway, which of those road favorites do you think is most likely to lose? Let me know down below. I appreciate you watching and have a good morning.